What's up, America? Welcome back to another episode of Choir Practice. I'm here with my buddy, my co-host, Bernie. Say hello.
Hey, how are you, everybody?
Tell them who you are.
Bernie Hallam's retired law enforcement, 33 years. Just was a wonderful career and glad to be here.
And really excited today because we brought in a friend of mine all the way up from Tennessee. Tell them all who you are.
Chris Widener, founder of the Red Referral Network and ShareRight.org from Chattanooga, Tennessee. The city that's fun to say, by the way.
That is a fun city to say.
It is.
And you're also sort of a legend. I mean, you've got how many books?
24 books in 14 languages.
And I can't even speak like 1.5 languages. That's pretty good.
Well, no, I didn't do the translation.
And you've spoken at how many events?
2,500 events in 36 years. Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So we like to open in prayer, man. So do you want to lead us off?
Sure, absolutely. Lord, thanks for today. Thanks for a chance to be able to get together and talk about important things. Your word says that as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. And we just pray that this would be a time for us to grow and all those who are watching and listening to grow as well and to be more acquainted with the truth so that we might walk in it. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, a couple product shout outs. So first of all, this is my hat that they hooked me up with at the National Law Enforcement Officer Hall of Fame. I was inducted into the class of 2024 as their Civilian of the Year. Got the award back there. It was quite the honor. I really was among giants on that stage. I felt like I didn't deserve to be there, but isn't that kind of how life works? Sometimes God gives us opportunities and blessings to be surrounded by people who are way better than us, way better looking than us, way better heroes than we could ever dream of being. And so it was truly quite the honor. And while I was out there, man, so I met this dude. He owns Hassel Cattle Company. And they're huge supporters of the law enforcement community. And he said, hey, I've got a little surprise for you. When you get back, send me your address. Man, I got a massive case of all sorts of Wagyu sent over to the house. My kids were going through it. Like, we got beef bacon. I didn't even know that was a thing. And so shout out to these guys because they support our partners over at Invest USA. Michael Letts and his team at Invest, they donate active shooter vests to law enforcement officers that cannot afford them and that the agencies aren't buying them. Another shout out to my boy Todd is somewhere over there. MakeHoneyGreatAgain.com. Every bottle that you guys purchase, $5 from every bottle goes into our funds to bring wounded officers out here to tell their stories. And so MakeHoneyGreatAgain.com. And it's actually delicious honey, and it's ultra MAGA. One final shout out to my boy Eli Crane. Loves this shirt. Trust God, not politicians, from Warrior 12. And I thought that this would be sort of a fitting open for you. Red, remember everyone deployed until they all come back. You can't actually keep this shirt because we have to do some photos of it later because I really like it. But Red Referral Network thought that was fitting. So let's dive into it, man. Where do you want to
You thought it would be a fitting gift to not give me?
Right? I mean, this shirt,
Here's a lovely shirt we're not going to give you.
it's a large. It's not going to be fitting me either, so don't worry. What is Red Referral Network?
Red Referral Network is a network of conservative business people. They don't have to be the business owner. So they might be an entrepreneur, they might be the business owner, they might just be in charge of business development for their company or whatever. We put them in a room together once a week, and they get to know each other, they get to know each other's businesses, and then when they're out and about, they're referring business back to these folks. And networking groups have been around for a long time, typically just around referrals and making more money. Ours goes a couple of steps further. It's for referring business and making money and those kinds of things, but it's also built around the political philosophy of conservatism so that you can be in a room with people who you know, like, and trust, and you share shared values and beliefs and those kinds of things. And then lastly, we've partnered with Dinesh D'Souza, who's an iconic conservative voice and influencer and thought leader. He produces a 5 to 7 minute video every single week exclusively for the Red Referral Network to drive the discussion in the local groups. And so the idea is they come together, they support one another, and then when they're out and about, you're out doing your thing, and somebody says, oh, we got to sell our house. Do you know a real estate agent? You say, I know a real estate agent. And you refer them back to the person who's in your group.
So here's what I learned quickly from members of your group. This is not a political thing. And that threw me for a loop. It's not in the sense that, okay, Red Referral Network, conservative, I get it. But the people that come together are coming together because they have shared values.
Yeah.
They're not sitting around talking politics, debating politics. They're literally sitting around because they have some of the shared values of family, country, pro-law enforcement. How did this whole concept come about, and what are some of the core values that drive both the organization and you as a leader in this community?
Yeah, so it's interesting. There's been some other business networking groups that have been around for 30-something years and very successful and have proven the model. And I don't even know that this would have been a good idea 7 years ago. But we came to the conclusion, in a lot of discussions with Dinesh and with other people, was the country has become so polarized and so antagonistic toward other people. Now, I have never made a decision to buy or not buy based on somebody else's political beliefs. But in the last few years, what we've really seen is, primarily on the left, they will not do business with people on the right. For example, we talked about my speaking career. I've done 2,500 speeches to crowds as large as 25,000 people all over the world. Russia, China, Singapore, Australia, Spain, Egypt, everywhere. All over the United States, 47 of the United States I've spoken in. And Motivational Speakers Hall of Fame, 24 books, Wall Street Journal bestseller, New York Times bestseller. But in 2010, I ran for the U.S. Senate in Washington State, or as I now call it, my ill-fated run in the U.S. for the U.S. Senate. And then that was sort of the beginning of the end of my speaking career. And now going from 70 speaking engagements a year to probably 10. And mostly with either conservative organizations or conservatives in the organization who hire me. But if I had a nickel for every time somebody called me up and they said, oh, you're hired, we're going to bring you in, and then somebody at their company or somebody on their board found out who I vote for, and they call me back up, hey, man, I'm really sorry. Margaret on the board is throwing a hissy fit. And I'm like, why? And then you're a Trump supporter. Oh, okay. So I just really decided personally, and I think there's a lot of people like that, if you're going to call me a racist, homophobic, sexist, transphobic insurrectionist, you are entitled to your opinion, but you are not entitled to my money. And I simply refuse to knowingly do business with anybody who is in that camp anymore. Because think about it, you're going to put on a new roof. Roof is probably the most expensive thing you're going to pay for in your house, right? $20,000, $30,000. You can choose a conservative roofer, you can choose a liberal roofer. You give your $30,000 to a liberal roofer, and he goes, I'm going to give $3,000 to the Biden re-elect campaign. Writes it out, Biden wins, he gets before a microphone and goes, Chris Widener is a racist, homophobic, transphobic, sexist insurrectionist. And I paid for it. This message brought to you by the roof I bought, right? And so we've just decided, why will we continue to give money to people who hate us? Now, I don't go into a restaurant and go, excuse me, before we get the menus, can I talk to the owner? I'd like to know his political philosophy. Like, I don't do that. So it's not like an antagonistic thing. It's a self-preservation thing. Or as one podcaster, he actually gave me this I didn't come up with it. He goes, yeah, Chris, it's sort of like tipping your executioner. You're going to kill me? Wow, here's $200. Like, I got to the point where I want to give my money, whether it's a $50 a week yard mowing thing to a $30,000 roof, I want to give it to people who share my values and who will then donate money to organizations and political people who share my values. And as Dinesh has always pointed out, he's like, yeah, Jewish people have done it for a long time. Hindus, he's from India. Indians, Hindus do it. Mormons do it. Amish people do it. We tend to do business with people who we know, like, and trust and who share our values. We've never done that before. It's never been based on political philosophy. It's typically been done around religious communities. But Dinesh and I talked about it for a couple of years and just said it's time for conservatives to stop giving their money to people who hate them.
So Sheriff Lamb, you're friends with,
Yeah.
He's experienced cancel culture since he announced his run for Congress,
Yeah.
right? So a little background, Sheriff Lamb had to lock up his own son at one point, and he said, listen, he had to learn a lesson. He had to do what it took to come around. And so Sheriff Lamb's son learned from him, right? And then last year, right before Christmas, his son and granddaughter and soon-to-be daughter-in-law were killed by a drunk driver. It was about 2 months after that Sheriff Lamb was uninvited as the speaker at a MAD conference. If there was ever a qualified speaker to be giving the keynote at a Mothers Against Drunk Driving conference, it was the man who arrested his own son and then whose son got cleaned up and then was later killed by a drunk driver. I mean, it's a horrible story, but Sheriff Lamb is just an incredible guy who doesn't get on stage and talk politics.
I've had him into
like
so many
at all.
events. I love Mark Lamb. He's just great.
But he was canceled because he's running for Congress as a conservative.
Yeah.
I think we've got a really big problem in society, Chris, where we're also polarized. That we like the issue isn't who am I going to give my money to today? It's how do we get to this point? How do we get to the point where we're defunding the police and that makes sense?
I can tell you exactly how it happened. I read a book in 1999 by Robert Bork. If you remember Robert Bork, he was going to be on the Supreme Court, and then he got borked. Like it literally, his name became a verb because of how they treated him. He was the first of the really bad, hearings where they try to get rid of people on either side. And he wrote a book called Slouching Towards Gomorrah, and he talked about how in the late 60s, early 70s, the left decided that they needed to take over the institutions. And this was in 1999. Like, you read this thing now and you're like, this guy knew everything was coming down. They needed to take over the media, Hollywood, the government, schools, education, all those things, take it over, tie a bow on it, and we own everything. Now think about this. If you are 20 to 30 years old in 1970, that means you were born 1940 to 1950. That was at the birth of radical leftist ideology. It was free love, free sex, God's dead. It was all this kind of anti-capitalism, all these kinds of things, born in the late 60s, early 70s. If you're 20 to 30 years old then, how old are you now? 75 to 85. Now look at the Democrat politicians who are 75 to 85. They were the 1970s radicals, and this is their last hurrah. We're not polarized, really, I don't think, politically. We're polarized in our worldviews, and this is why there will never be unity again in America, I don't believe, because we're operating out of two worldviews. You have the traditional Judeo-Christian, capitalistic worldview. It doesn't mean that you had to be Jewish or Christian. Thomas Jefferson, for example, wasn't. He was a deist, right? But they had this worldview that there is a God and I'm not him, right? And so you have that traditional worldview versus now what has been born out of the late 60s, early 70s, which is the anti-God, secular, humanist, socialist, communist worldview. And never the twain shall meet, right? And so here's the real problem with the battle of the worldviews. They both view themselves as having a moral imperative. It isn't like in the 50s where both sides would say, we need an interstate highway, bill. And they go, okay, well, let's do that. Well, we should do it this way. No, we should do it this way. They all wanted to have the same thing. It was just different ways to get there. Now you have two sides that are completely polarized and they want something different. But they have a moral imperative. You're never going to get somebody who's pro-choice to say we should abolish abortion. You're never going to get somebody who is pro-life to say, yeah, what's a few babies to spare? They both have a moral imperative. Same with capitalism. Capitalism is horrible. It's the source of all things bad in the world. It's colonization. It's all these. No. It's the only good thing in the world. It's, capitalism is the worst form of economy except for all the others, So we are at a stalemate. And what's really interesting is it's like 51% and it's just sort of swinging. And it'll be interesting. You get Trump and then you get Biden, and then if Trump wins again, it would be really interesting. But that's how razor thin that is, I think, between the two worldviews.
So one of the things that Bernie has focused a lot on in the work that we're doing with law enforcement today is how do we find that unity, right? How do we I won't settle for the idea that we cannot find unity again. And I've experienced it in my own through Bernie pushing me and saying, hey, let's cut back the rhetoric with law enforcement today of going hard after one side of the aisle versus the other. And one of the things that I had to make the conscious decision to do was to get off of social media. Now, there's a certain irony to this, which is that our companies are built around social media. It's the largest police news outlet in the world based on that distribution. But I find that personally, when I get off of these Facebook groups and out of these heated debates, I hate people just a little bit less.
Well, I'll tell you what, I can duke it out with people. I mean, just go at it for hours arguing and then go have a beer and a dinner with them. I love people. I love all people.
That's politics.
I mean, that's what you do. You got. I mean, some of these things that happened in the founding fathers when they were going through all the decisions about what our country would look like, they fought like dogs during the day, and then they went down to the pub. I wrote an article for the Chattanoogan, and I didn't know if it was going to be controversial or not. What was interesting was it was called "How Conservatives Can Get Along with the LGBTQ Community," and I thought, oh boy, here we go. I just moved to Chattanooga. I write this article, and I thought, oh boy, here we go. You know what? Not a single comment, not a single threat, not a single "you're horrible," because I think I threaded it just right. And I do believe we can have unity, but it takes both sides. So here's what I said, and it was back when all the drag show stuff was going on, which was rooted in a lot of the videos you saw on national TV were in Chattanooga. And so I think we need to accept everybody. Accept. It's a series of A-letter words, right? So the first is we have to accept everybody. And in the article, I said, I am an affluent, white, Republican, conservative, Christian male. And for that, many of you think I'm horrible. And I'm okay with that. You think I'm horrible? As long as you accept that I am a U.S. citizen, I have the same rights as everybody else, and that I get to live my life as I see fit. And I can do the same with you. If you're a grown man, 6'5", and you got a beard and a penis, you want to call yourself a lady, have at it. I accept that. That's you. You do you. You want to dress up like a woman, dance on tables? Have at it. I don't care. I accept you. I accept you. But it doesn't stop at acceptance. They require approval. No, it's not enough for you to say, hey, man, you want to do your thing? Do your thing. It's okay. Cool. No problem. Not for me. No. That's not enough. And it goes to approval. They demand approval. And then it goes to acquiescence. Now we must acquiesce to them. And then ultimately it goes to advocacy. You must advocate for us. I tell them, you don't have to advocate for hardcore conservative Republican politics. Just accept me. I don't have to advocate for transgenderism or anything else that I disagree with, anything else, nothing to do with sexuality or anything, as long as I accept, right? And I think that we could have unity in America if we could just say, accept everybody. This is the beauty of America. Lots of different cultures, lots of different races, lots of different, whatever, religions, everything. But it's free. We're free. You do you. I'll do me. You want to go to church, go to church. You don't want to go to church, don't go to church. You want to, whatever. I'm a little bit libertarian in many ways. But it's the people who demand that you approve of them that I think causes the disunity.
No, I agree with that. And, a recent example is yesterday I was in a sports day looking at some stuff, and the gentleman at the register, beautiful pink manicured nails.
You do you, man. You want to wear pink nails? Go for it.
Hey, man, nice nails. I mean, honestly, they were,
Yeah.
But, and he was like, oh, thank you, because I'm sure 90 other people are going to come in and be like, looking at this or hiding their kid behind it.
Yeah.
You know what? At the end of the day, he's a person in this world just trying to exist. And whatever he believes is none of my business, because he could be the best person in the world. He just likes to have his fingernails, and I'm okay with that.
Well, and here's the other thing. I always say that if you are a conservative Christian, your Christianity needs to inform your conservatism, not your conservatism informing your Christianity, yes. Right? We are still Christians, and I see a lot of people who will say horrible things about a human being created in the image of God. All human beings are created in the image of God and therefore valuable and to be loved and accepted. Maybe not that behavior approved of, or that lifestyle approved of, or whatever belief system, whatever approved of. But there are a lot of people who call themselves Christians who are not necessarily very Christian. They're very conservative. And the Bible verse that I go back to regularly talks about speaking the truth in love. And the problem is most people pick one or the other. It's not speaking the truth in love. It's just love. Oh, it's good. It's okay. It might be completely not biblical or God's plan, but I don't want to cause a problem. Let's just all love each other, right? And the other people are the truth tellers. Like they say, I'm just a truth teller. No, you're kind of a jerk, actually. But if we could merge speaking the truth in love And to be able to say, I disagree with you, I think this is harmful to your lifestyle, we would never have a problem saying it to a drug addict, right? Let's just take a drug addict, for example. What you're doing is destroying your life. What you're doing is destroying your family. What you're doing is destroying your finances. I still love you. That's speaking the truth in love. And I think conservative Christians in particular, and I can only speak from my particular background, we need to learn to not only speak the truth, but we have to do it in a way that expresses that I love you as a person, and God created you, and you are just as valuable to God as I am.
Well, yeah, because love is the grassroots language,
Yep.
right? Because when you have love, everything else is going to be okay.
Yes.
Seriously, because this is the problem. When you don't have love, when you're doing things with malice, when you see the guy with the nails and you're like, that's stupid. Why the hell do you do that? That's the problem, right? We have to just be able to step by. Everything that doesn't offend us, that's different than us, doesn't need to be a lightning rod for response.
I love the differences. You know what's interesting to me? I thought about this a couple of years ago. I started telling some friends about it. When we look at almost every area of life, we value diversity. Look at the animal kingdom. You got crazy little scorpions, right? And then you got giant giraffes and big burly elephants. And my favorite, the peacock, right? And we love it. Or we think about nature. I love the Grand Canyon, but I love the ocean, but I love the mountains. Right. I love all the places I want to go in the world to see God's creation, right? But damn it, every person better be exactly the same. Right? And we need more diversity, I believe, or acceptance of diversity amongst people. I love that there's black people. I love that there's white people. I love that there's Asian people. It's God's palette, right? It's God's, you can almost see him going, oh, I'm going to make some black people. I'm going to look at that. These are white people. These people I'm going to make, they're going to be, we'll call them Asians, right? It's the palette of God's creation. It goes back to that little song that we all learned in Sunday school. Red and yellow, black and white, they're all precious in his sight. And I think we need to embrace diversity in many different ways.
Oh, see, I thought that you were going to go with the song. You ever see that commercial, The Red House? It's a furniture store.
Yeah, at the Red House. Yeah,
it is like the worst produced commercial ever. But it's
now I'm
all at the Red House where black people and white people buy furniture. Yes, I mean it is probably the worst.
What was it? 10 gauge. 10 gauge. I like hunting, fishing.
Yeah.
And I'm white.
Yeah.
The guy's like, I'm a big black guy, and I'm black. And
this mattress is perfect for a white person or a black person. I mean, it
is the
hysterical.
And I'm going to have to go look at it.
But, we just had the Reverend who we filmed with, right? And he talked about there are very different opinions in law enforcement and the community about law enforcement. So you've got certain perspectives on the George Floyd situation, certain perspectives on Black Lives Matter situation, certain perspectives on problems that we have in the law enforcement community. What he's doing, and he's lost friends and family on both sides of the aisle, is saying, cut the crap. Let's find that unity. What I love about the Red Referral Network is that it is people who are all working towards that common goal.
Yeah.
So we're sitting here having a conversation about, whether or not unity can be achieved. But the beauty of it is that what I've seen with all of your members is that they're all going, how do we get back to the community? How do we help our own community? How do we support law enforcement? How do I support your business and your family, regardless of what you look like? You're in there because there are Black conservatives, Hispanic conservatives, Asian conservatives.
And more every day.
Salesman
of the month, Joe Biden.
I love Bernie's face right now. But it is great because.
But the beautiful thing is, I don't even know what his political positions are at this point.
I'm just I want the best person.
But you know what? I don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you and I were sitting here talking about basketball beforehand and our love of that and things that we can, that we can be together with, right? And I didn't ask him, now are you conservative?
No, I went through an extensive quiz about the Seattle Supersonics because he was a ball boy back in the day.
Yeah.
I didn't do bad, did I?
No, you got 3 of the 2 of the 5. You got 2 of the 5
It's
starters.
stressful.
That's not doing bad.
But I will. No.
That's doing
No,
good.
listen,
no.
You
I'll
think
tell you
the
what.
Seattle
You couldn't.
Supersonics
I'll
are
bet most
probably
of
a
the people in
female
this room
soccer
couldn't name
team,
a
so leave me
single
alone.
starter from that team. It's the most unsung
He's
team
like,
ever.
what
in
sport are you
NBA.
talking about?
I don't do sports ball. I'm planning on how to be a warlord during the apocalypse that's coming. I don't do sports ball. So, how can people learn more about the organization?
They can go to redreferralnetwork.com. They can go to therednetwork.com, which is where we have all of our partnerships and all the special offerings that people can get. We're launching a health sharing company. By the time people hear this, it'll be up and running, called shareright.org. It's an alternative to health insurance. And we really just want to help people save money, make money, have more fun, be with people that share their values and those kinds of things. And we're very excited about it. We're relatively new, 6 months old, but it's growing well. And we're just excited to be able to make a difference, make our voices heard. And
I'm excited about the health share side
Yeah.
of things, transparently, because I am sick and tired of spending gobs and like, this for me is not political at all. Like, we are spending $2,800 a month for my family for health
we
insurance.
quoted you 805.
Yeah, and we have a $16,000
$2,000 a month.
deductible. I'm gonna save
what?
$16,000 deductible.
On top of the 2,800.
We'll tell you what mine is.
Yeah. So
Aren't we not allowed to say deductible?
no, that's okay.
Yeah, he can say it when when it refers to the insurance, but not on the other. Yeah.
Don't edit this out. No, she's right. Because here's the thing: like, this industry is so messed up that I can't even talk about. I have to be very careful about the fact that I'm talking about moving over to a health share program because it's so highly regulated. You know what? I think we need to have these conversations because a lot of people are getting screwed on the health insurance side of things.
Well, I'll tell you, I went in for an
an
MRI, and I was with a health sharing before we moved over, and I went in for an MRI, and who's the first person they always send you to when you get there? To the lady, Joan back there will figure out how you're going to pay for it. So you go down, you plop down next to Joan, and she goes, okay, what insurance company? And I said, I'm self-pay. So that's what you call yourself when you're with a health sharing. I said, I'm self-pay. And she goes, oh, that's great, because if you had insurance, the MRI today would be $5,000. But since you're self-pay, it's only $2,500. And I think that Joan thought I was going to be excited about that, but my first thought was, what a racket insurance is. Somebody else paying for it? $5,000. Because the CEO needs to make $14 million a year, so they just bill more and, all these kinds of things. So I actually started thinking to myself, even if you had insurance, if you had a $6,000 deductible and you were going to have to spend $5,000, or you could do $2,500, why would you use your insurance anyway? Why not just pay the $2,500 instead of the $5,000 out of your $6,000 deductible? So there's lots of ways to do health care better, and we believe that shareright.org is going to be one of those things that helps people save money and do better for their families.
Well, and again, man, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, Democrat, Republican, in the middle, I don't care. I think we could all agree, shit's expensive now, man. Everything is freaking expensive. Like, I feel like a 90-year-old crotchety guy screaming, "Get off my lawn!" when I go out to Publix now down in Florida, and I
saw you were driving a Gran Torino out there.
I'm not. I wish I was, man. I went in, a bag of Tostitos was $7. Not even the family size bag. It is ridiculous.
Did you see the video the other day from Alaska? A woman walking through the grocery store. She goes, "Here's your $15 bottle of Jif peanut butter."
Yeah, it's like $14 for a
insane.
loaf of bread.
Yeah.
And so we got to figure out how to be able to support our families, right? And so if I could go from essentially $36,000 a year plus the $16,000 deductible, so $52,000 a year for healthcare.
Yeah.
That's insane.
We figured that day that you would save $37,000 a year.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a no-brainer.
See,
and we got the hell out of Connecticut. Thank you. No applause. Whatever.
860 all day, baby. 860 all day.
And so, but my point is that people are being driven to extremes of how do I find more business?
Yep.
Which is what Red Referral Network is for. How do I find people who share my values, which is Red Referral Network? And man, how do I save some freaking money?
Yeah,
and I'm super excited about the health share program that you guys
Yeah.
are rolling out.
Yeah.
So, and that's not a paid endorsement. That's just me being
Yeah.
really excited to save a ton of money.
I think it's time for people to stand up, make their voices heard. I tell everybody to vote because we all need to vote. We're Americans. We need to vote. And they're like, well, what if you could get a Democrat to vote? I don't care. That's what makes us us, is we get to vote. There's lots of countries where you don't get to vote, or if you do go vote, the dictator's already decided what the vote's going to be. And so I think it's the beauty of America. I believe very much in free speech. People will say negative things about America, and people say, "Oh, that's horrible. How could you say that?" And I'm like, that's the beauty of America. Because lots of other countries, if you say anything bad about the president or the government, they just go, "Yeah, come out with us behind the building and get down on your knees." Bam. And out
Well,
you
we're
go.
so passionate in America about voting that after you die, you can vote Democrat twice.
Oh my God. So, but to your point about the insurance, the blessing of my job is that I pay like $160 a month.
Right.
What?
Yeah. But meantime, my buddy retired from another agency here in Connecticut that when he left, they said, you could do our Cadillac plan with your family for $25,000 a year. So his secondary job that I used to work with him eats up 25% of his salary to keep his family insured.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It
It's for some, it's the luck of the draw. And otherwise, other people are just totally getting screwed. So
Somebody said to me once, when you go into any major downtown city, look at the tallest building. Chances are an insurance company is either housed there or owns the building.
It's a great point. Brother, thank you for coming on the
thanks
show,
for having
man.
me, man.
Always a pleasure.
nice to meet you.
Guys, thank you all for watching. Thanks for hitting that share button. God bless you all. God bless America.
See you, Mom.